Welcome to the Believe in Yourself podcast with me, Yisroel Roll. I'm a psychotherapist and I have been fielding questions from around the world on Zoom and on Skype and e-therapy on the questions of the anxiety resulting from the coronavirus. And I believe that I have discovered a new syndrome that I would like to call the Coronavirus Anxiety Syndrome, or CAS for short. This syndrome is based on 5 conditions, 5 precursors that lead to an inability to function properly. Because of the anxiety, because of the pressure we're under, we are not functioning well as husbands, wives, parents, employees, people who are servants of God. And therefore, I believe it's imperative that we get a handle on handling our reaction to the pressures, the pandemic, the crisis, the coronavirus. And therefore, it's important in any situation to diagnose the situation, diagnose the condition, understand whether we have it or not, and then learn how to deal with it. So I'm going to share with you a series of Believe in Yourself podcasts. And this is podcast number 1 on how to deal with this pandemic. The 5 dimensions of coronavirus anxiety syndrome are based on the 5 aspects of grief that Professor Elizabeth Kubler-Ross identified in dealing with the threat of death or grieving or a loss. And they are, number 1, denial. Number 2, anger. Number 3, bargaining or negotiating. Number 4, depression. And number 5, finally, acceptance. What are these 5? Let's analyze them as it relates to the coronavirus anxiety syndrome. Number 1, denial. When we say to each other, this is insane, this is crazy, what we're saying is we cannot accept this reality. We're in denial. How could this be? In the year 2020, with all our advances in medicine, in science and technology, and heart transplants, lung transplants, kidney transplants, face transplants, travel, world travel, how is it possible that we are being brought to our knees because of this? And therefore, we are in a state of denial. And this includes our communities, people around the world, and myself as well. I'm in shock. I can't believe this is happening. That's stage 1 to identify whether I have or you have this CAS syndrome. Number 2, anger. I'm angry, as perhaps you are, at irresponsible people for going outside without protection, without precautions. The students we saw partying on the beach in Florida during March break, irresponsible. People going out without gloves or without masks or without protection. This is irresponsible. And perhaps we're angry at the people who were coughing before the awareness came to light, and perhaps some of us became infected. And I know personally, my chavrusa is infected, my dear, dear friend. He's infected. And I was learning with him. And I'm working on a quarantine myself as we speak to try to prevent it from spreading further to my family and to others. But we're angry. And sometimes, let's admit this, or perhaps even angry at Hashem. Why are you doing this? God, why are you doing this? Why are you allowing the world to fall apart, to come to a standstill, to lose lives, to destroy the economy? We're angry. We're confused. Stage 3, bargaining. If whatever power you believe in, God as you understand him, Hashem, if I do this, if I'm a better husband, will you let me live? If I take on a new obligation, if I become a better person, will you let my family be well? We bargain, negotiate, try to deal with the crisis in that fashion. Number 4, depression. And yes, we become depressed because of this crisis. We say to ourselves, reflecting on our lives as if our lives are passing before us. We say to ourselves, maybe I wasted my life. Maybe I didn't accomplish all the things I wanted to do. Please, God, give me another chance. I become depressed and sad. Will this end? Will I live? Will my family live? We're in a state of overwhelming depression and paralysis because of this crisis. And finally, when we come to accept reality, that yes, the coronavirus is here. It is a pandemic. It is reality. It is scary. It is present. And if I and you, we, in order to be able to be living in the present, need to accept the reality that people may die. And we have to accept our own mortality. Part of believing in yourself is, I'm living a life, I have a job to do in my life, and one day I'm going to die. That's part of reality. And when I do that, I'm able to accept the reality of my life and of my death, and say, in between those moments of life and death, I have a job to do. And no matter what happens, I have a job to do. I have accepted that reality of beginning and end. That's part of healthy thinking. That's part of the healthy way of dealing with the CAS, the coronavirus anxiety syndrome. To live in the present, to live in the here and now. And instead of saying, what if something happens? Let's deal with what is happening and say, I have the ability to handle it. I accept this reality and I have to live in reality. Breathe, focus, accept reality and say, I can handle this reality. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to be strong for myself, my family, my children, and I'm going to live in this reality. If I'm present and I accept this challenge, then I can begin to cope and deal with this reality. Stay tuned for podcast number 2 of the Believe in Yourself podcast.